Hello, welcome to Waypoint Survival. Today, let's talk about axes. First of all, I want to welcome all of you to my 50th video. And it seems like not too long ago I just started with my very first one. And I'm so thankful for all of you that are watching and subscribing and for all your kind comments and your support. I really do appreciate it. I'd also like to state that I don't consider myself to be an axe expert. There are people who spend years collecting axes, they make axes, and I've just used axes for a lot of years, have quite a bit of experience. I've cleared areas with axes, I've delimbed trees with axes, chopped and split wood ever since I was a little boy. So I have a lot of experience with them, but I don't consider myself an expert. So I just want to put that disclaimer out there. I know there's a lot of people who have different opinions, and this is probably in some ways more of an opinion video, so we'll just leave it at that. I have several axes with me today. I was holding, as you probably saw in the introduction, and so I'm just going to talk about a few of the axes that I own and have used, and what I now consider to be my favorite bushcraft axe. So please stay tuned. So the first axe that I want to show to you is something that I'm sure many of you are familiar with. This is a Fiskars chopping axe. It's a 23.5-inch axe. I've had this for, I don't know, 12 to 15 years. I didn't put a date on it when I bought it, but I've probably cut more wood and chopped down more trees with this. I wish they came with a better sheath, but this is what they come with, just a plastic. It's what they ship it in, and it's sort of a sheath. But I don't really carry this for bushcraft, although you could. If I were to carry this, I would definitely make a better sheath for it or buy one. But anyway, for most of what I use for clearing around the property, if I'm just going to grab a lightweight axe, I'll grab this one. It works pretty good. The next axe that I want to show you is the Max axe. And this is often used in military Humvees. And it's an expensive set. I don't have all of it here with me. I left that back at the house. But it has this section here. And maybe I'll do a review video on it at one point, but it has a shovel attachment and a pickaxe and a rake and various other things. This is kind of a one-tool option you could throw in your truck, and sometimes I do keep this in my truck for various uses. I've actually used this axe on various jobs doing various carpentry remodeling jobs where I've had to trim out limbs, and it's been a very useful tool. The next axe that I want to talk to you about is this Collins. It's a full-sized axe. Of course, it's a single bit. I do have a double bit axe, but this is hand forged, and it is the Commander. Still even got the original sticker on it. So this is kind of a neat axe. I got the plastic on it here, the rubber piece, but I've used this a little bit. This is kind of my backup home axe, and this usually stays in a corner of my work shed. So this is another just a full-size axe if you're really wanting to do some serious work. And again, it's great. It's hand ground, hand forged, and nothing wrong with a good old-fashioned Collins axe. The next axe that I have that I want to show you is this Craftsman Boys axe. And I picked this up at a flea market a couple years ago for, I don't know, I think it was $28. But this is just a really neat little axe, and it's lightweight. It's about 28 inches long, and the head, I think, is a 2.5-pound head. And it is a lightweight axe. It's for light work. And again, I always recommend, I just want to put this in here, if you're going to be carrying and using an axe, especially for bushcraft and survival, make sure it's got a good mask on it or some sort of a cover for the blade. You really don't want to be cutting yourself when you're out in the woods. The next axe I want to talk to you about is a beautiful axe here made by Holtzbruck. This is, of course, a Swedish axe. It is the Kisa felling axe, and I made the leather sheath mask for it. And I really like this. I've used it a fair amount of times already, but this is my larger size axe that I would normally carry, and I really like the size, the profile, the weight of the head. It's about 1 3/4 pounds, and I do like this profile. It's just a great all-around axe, and I know that many of you in the bushcraft and survival community either have one of these or the Gransfors Brooks similar axe. they're great axes, great steel. Swedish axes are pretty hard to beat. And so I'm pretty impressed with this one. I really like it a lot. The last axe I want to show you is this little beauty right here. And I just recently acquired this. I have a hatchet. I have a Gransfors Brooks Wildlife hatchet. I love this. This is the Wildlife hatchet. It is 14 inches long, and it's a great one-hand axe. Of course, you can choke up on it. It is really great for carving spoons, doing small projects. Really and honestly, you can use this axe in many ways that you would use a good knife. So I really like this. I've had this for quite a few years as well. And if I'm just doing some lightweight bushcrafting, this is the little hand axe that I will take. And of course, that really is the difference, isn't it, between an axe and a hatchet. A hatchet is kind of a one-handed job that you can chop and use with one hand, where an axe you will want to use two. So here's the difference between the two. This axe that I just picked up here, and I'll give you a few more details about it. It's first of all, it's much longer. You can see this one is about 20.5 inches long, and it's definitely got a larger handle. I made the mask for this particular axe, and it just has a simple pull here that you can open up and then slide that off. And what's neat about this axe is a hand-forged Soviet Union, USSR area, 1956 blacksmith axe. And I also put the collar on it here, as you can see, and someone painted it up and gave it some color, and I put another bit of a lanyard here on the back as well for hanging it. Not always so much for putting the hand in and using it, but it works also for that. But this one's big enough that you could actually use it two-handed to chop, or if you were coming in from the side of a tree. And so this really works great. And what's unique about these axes is that the head on them, actually, to the uninitiated, it looks like it's installed upside down, like this should be the bottom. This, instead of being the top, this should be this beard area. But anyway, it's what it is, and I think it's a unique look. And also, one thing that I really like about this is that if you hit this metal, it has such a nice ring to it. That's some really good steel. And so I've done some cutting and chopping with this, and of course it's a little dirty from use. But I like the profile of this blade, the cheeks here, the way it swells out toward the head. It gives a really good splitting profile. And I really like the shoulder, the way this is designed here, and it's a little bit covered up by the collar. But let's do some splitting and chopping with it, and I'll show you exactly what I mean. So what do I look for in a great bushcraft axe? Well, first of all, I talked a little bit about the design of the head and the handle. It needs to fit your hand well, and it needs to have a good design that is ergonomic and will direct the force into the wood that you're chopping or splitting. Always consider the length of handle. Length of handle is very important to me. The reason it's important is because when I'm carrying a pack, and I don't always carry this pack here, I don't have a whole lot of gear in here because I'm just out doing this review video. But in my backpack, this is the Savoda Jaeger, and I really love this pack, and of course I've got a review video on it. But there are straps along the sides, and you can put it in. There is a pocket down here at the bottom that is meant for a water bottle or something like that, and then there's a couple of straps up here. What I like about it is about the same height as my bushcraft pack. And so it doesn't hang out the bottom. So many people that I see that use these type of axes or packs, is their axe will hang clear out the bottom like this. And of course, every time you go to set your pack down, it's going to be hitting the handle of your axe or hatchet. And so I really like an axe to be a length that will fit down inside my pack. I can actually put it inside the pack if I wish, if the weather turns bad and I want to protect the steel, and it will actually fit completely inside of my backpack. Also, when you're choosing a bushcraft axe, make sure you pick one that is you know, good for your skills and fit your pack and your gear. Overall weight, fit to hand. And then one other safety tip that I want to tell you: if you're going to be using an axe, You should also always carry some kind of a tourniquet. This is a one-handed CAT tourniquet, combat application tourniquets, what the CAT stands for. But these are relatively cheap. You can usually find them for around $10 US, and they're just great. And I would tell you, take it out of the plastic and practice using it. There's a lot of YouTube videos on how to apply a CAT tourniquet, and you really need to know how to use this. Get some training. And the reason you want to take it out of the plastic is if you cut yourself, you don't want it inside the plastic because your hands will be slippery with blood perhaps. I know that sounds a little grotesque, but you want to really get quick access to this and keep it handy with you. If you're going to go somewhere, you'll stick it in your pocket, or I like to wear cargo pants. I keep it in my pants pocket or somewhere on my pack because I want to make sure that if I would slip, cut a hand, finger, your arm, your leg, you want to make sure and be able to staunch the bleeding until you can go get help. And if you'll remember on season 3 of Alone, there was a fella who was walking around with the mask cover off of his axe, and he slipped and fell and deeply gashed his arm, and he had to quit the show because he was unable to continue because it was a severely deep wound. The next thing about axes is you want to be able to resharpen it in the field. I normally carry this Gomboy 240 with a curved blade, and you've seen me use this on videos. I'm a big fan of silky saws. But inside of this plastic case, I also carry a small, fine file on both sides. And it's not real big, it's not real heavy, and it is sufficient to keep a good edge on my axes when I'm out bushcrafting and practicing my survival skills. And it does fit down, just like I said, real nicely inside of this plastic package, and then I've got it together. And let me say this. There's always a lot of talk about one tool options, and I understand, yes, you can take one tool out and you get all kinds of great stuff, but you know, really for splitting wood, especially in cold weather situations where you're trying to get to that dry inner wood inside of those logs, you're going to bucket into lengths, and you're going to have to use some sort of a saw along with your axe to do your splitting. And so I really don't consider an axe and a saw an either-or situation, more of a both-and. I'll take both the saw and the axe when I'm out in practicing my bushcraft and survival skills. So just a little tip for you. So one thing about splitting wood is you always want to make sure and split your wood on something that is soft, like another log or a stump, a couple of pieces of wood you can lay on the ground and you can brace it up, or make some sort of a cutting anvil, because you really don't want to drive your blade of your hatchet into the ground. If you're going to be walking around, always make sure that you put the mask back on. Again, safety first. And then make sure you stow this safely somewhere where you won't lose it. So when I'm splitting, I like to spread my legs apart so that if I would miss, I'm not going to hit my legs. And then trying to find something that is a good height for you so you're not chopping down low and missing. And then you want to move this out a little ways so that you're not on the edge, so that if you would happen to miss, you would still be able to hit your wood. So let's see how this Soviet-made axe really works. So far so good. This is a little bit longer of a piece of wood than I generally would try to split with this, so I just grab something. All right, we're making progress. Here we go. So, for a shorter axe in the 20-inch range, and the wood that I'm splitting here, as you can see, is, well, it's about 18 inches, so it's a pretty good length for this size axe. But it did the job. After you're done, of course, always secure the sheath onto your axe or hatchet. Always think safety first when you're swinging something that has a very sharp edge on it. Alright, so since the tree wants to already lean this way, we're gonna start chopping right in here. And I'm not going to use the lanyard on this. We're using a two-handed grip because this is not a hatchet, this is actually a small axe. So we're just going to start right here. Alright, so as you can see, we've got our cut started already, and our notch, and then we're going to start cutting it up here. The tree kind of naturally leans that direction, and so we want to try to help with the fall since there's nothing up there that this tree can hit. Another thing you want to be careful about is always keep in mind any overhead branches. You don't want things falling on your head, especially when you're chopping dead standing timber. Of course, it's much easier to cut greenwood than this dead standing timber. This is really hard. And there she goes. There she goes. Just right where we wanted her. Good axe. Let's get a close up here. Really good axe. This is James Bender for Waypoint Survival. Please like, share, and subscribe. And make sure and press that bell button to stay notified of all of our upcoming videos. And we'll talk to you next time.